If life starts approximately 1 billion years ago, we will have to wait 400,000 years to see the aberration of the first nerve cells. This is where life as we know it begins. Brains in formation of only a few milligrams.
What?
It's not possible to determine any sign of intelligence yet.
Well, okay.
Well, but a reflex.
Right.
1 neuron, you're alive. 2 neurons, you're moving.
No.
Interesting things begin to happen.
I mean, ask protozoa if they can move without brain cells. I mean, that's...
Animal life on Earth goes back millions of years.
Yep.
Yet most species only use 3 to 5% of its cerebral capacity.
What is cerebral capacity?
At the top of the animal chain,
no.
That we finally see a
We're gonna have some
species use more of
problems.
its cerebral capacity.
Welcome, everybody, to the Cinema Psych podcast, the podcast where psychology meets film. I am your host, Dr. Alex Swan. Now, as you might have recognized in the intro, today's episode is going to be on Lucy, the film released in 2014 by Luc Besson. Probably most famous for The Fifth Element, so I need to give you a chance to recognize that name there. It stars Scarlett Johansson as the eponymous person in the movie Lucy, and she's apparently a college student in Taipei for some reason, who ends up absorbing a designer drug after she's kidnapped and forced to be a drug mule to go back to the United States, I think. And it ultimately makes her brain really, really awesome. Morgan Freeman also stars as the character Exposition. I enjoy that one. I'm never going to not like that joke. I think it's safe to say that this episode of the podcast will be sort of antithetical to what we've sort of developed over the last several episodes and antithetical to what we consider, me and the guest hosts that I have on, good teaching of what it means to be psychological portrayal in film. So in other words, like, we want the podcast in general to be like good stuff, but every once in a while we got to throw in the wrench to change it up, keep people interested in coming back, you know? Marketing. Perhaps a better way to look at our discussion today is to view it as a bit of a cautionary tale. What good myth busting should be if you plan on using a popular Hollywood film in your classes, or if you're just a film enthusiast and a psych enthusiast, you know? And so me and my guests today, as psychologists, we decided we were going to call this a rage watch followed by a rage chat. So that's what we're doing. Because the science in this film is so very, very, very much misrepresented for the sake of fiction that, you know, let's be honest, it's rage-inducing. We don't like it. It's not great. Gives our profession a slightly bad name, tinge of the bad name. So of course, you know, the rage is a bit tongue-in-cheek. But nevertheless, any brain scientist, at least we think so, would be saddened by the perpetration of bad brain myths, especially in this movie. Okay. So our chat today on Lucy is probably going to be in the vein of nitpickers and naysayers against the sake of the quality of the film or the enjoyment of the film. But, I think we're pretty good at doing it in a fun way. I consider myself a fun guy. So stick around. My guest host today is Dr. Christina Reagan. Christina is an assistant professor of psychology at Purdue University Northwest. Her current research focuses on stress and anxiety. She tends to teach first-year experience in psychology, intro psychology, statistics, research methods, and biopsychology. And she is a sucker for good pedagogy. Christina, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be on your podcast.
Great. I'm glad that you are here. To get us started, as I ask all of my guest hosts on your background related to film and what the film we are talking about today being Lucy, what has your research and our teaching focused on that we can connect to Lucy?
Sure. So first of all, I just want to say that I have never tried to create any superhumans. Okay. And I have certainly never conducted any research that was void of informed consent. So I just want to put that out there that this is not tied directly to my research, but I am definitely interested in the brain and how the brain works.
Mm-hmm.
So broadly, my research focuses on the neurobiology of individual differences in stress and anxiety. So I want to know things like, why are some people prone to anxiety while others aren't? And they go through the same kinds of experiences. So what's really going on in the heads of theirs? And I'm even more focused on looking at anxiety during the postpartum period. But I look at moms and non-moms alike in my research. So most of my training has involved working with rodent models.
Okay.
But but now I've moved on up the food chain and and I've started working with humans.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Rats, then humans.
Whenever I tell people that I study anxiety, I always get you should study me. So
because everyone has anxiety.
Exactly.
So as far as teaching goes?
Yeah. So in regards to teaching, I tend to teach some pretty challenging courses.
Mm-hmm.
So they are challenging for me as an instructor to teach, and they're pretty challenging for students to take. I'm really not big on memorization for just the sake of memorization. I really want the students to try to ask why something the way it is, getting down to our inner 5-year-old selves. But why? But why? So I'm really a big fan of encouraging students to try to figure out how the courses that I teach can apply not only to their future career goals, but really to their day-to-day lives.
Yes, and you are fairly prolific on sharing all of that stuff, files and everything, and it's really awesome. So keep that up because you make my teaching less challenging because I just steal all of your stuff. Anyways, informed consent. Anyways, let's pivot to film. So my questions for you on this one, and I'll just ask them all, and you answer them how you feel you want to answer them. But first question is, why do you love film? Why do you combine film and psych in your teaching? And what do you want your students and other film and or film enthusiasts to know about film and psychology?
Sure. So I really love to incorporate film into my classes because they're such a huge part of our culture, right? Who hasn't seen a movie?
Right.
Everybody watches movies, and it's part of our entertainment. It's sometimes, art imitating life, and it's just something that so many people enjoy. So I think that oftentimes a movie clip can explain something or convey something better than I could ever do. I can tell you a story, or I can show you an example. So I really love showing like little snippets in class of something, and it kind of it changes up the pedagogy too. So it's not think, pair, share. It's not me talking at them. It's not cold calling. It's just they're immersing themselves in art to display a concept from class. So sometimes I wish that I still had to wheel in a TV cart, like from middle school.
Oh, that brings back memories.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then you see the look of joy on their faces. I'm like, all right, we're gonna watch a movie.
Yeah, it's a lot more subtle these days,
Right.
embedding them into PowerPoints or like, putting a DVD into the computer, and it's like, oh yeah, the projector's already on.
Right. Yeah. So I think because it's something we can all relate to, and it just shows things in a way that I just can't necessarily do justice to.
Yeah, same here. Do you have any particular classes that you do film assignments in?
Yeah, so kind of tangentially in introductory psychology, we do this every unit. They have to submit an assignment where they have to relate something that they observe in the real world.
Okay.
And it's often they pick a movie.
Okay.
But this could be a TV show, a conversation they had, people watching, and then they have to relate that to something discussed in each chapter of our textbook. So it's kind of a way to help them review the material and make it applicable. So yeah, that's where the students tend to pick movies, and I really love it because they'll say, Dr. Reagan, you really need to see this if you haven't seen it. And then I add that film to my list.
Okay, Captain America. All right.
Yeah, so I think it's fun because it gives them the choice.
Yeah, I like it.
Right. Yeah, it's not me picking a film for them to analyze. It's, what do you already like? What is something you've already seen and is making you think?
Yeah, that's really good. I might have to try that one time. Again, thanks for the teaching tip.
Really, absolutely happy to share. I think people have shared so much with me that I feel like it's just paying it forward.
Christina, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about Lucy. We are going to rage chat about Lucy. So we were going back and forth with some movies, and ultimately we settled on Lucy. So, and you're the one who, if I recall correctly, you're the one who made the suggestion. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good one to change up the game a little bit with the podcast. So what was your reasoning behind the suggestion?
Okay, so last semester I taught a first-year experience in psychology class, which is kind of a how to do college and what are different things you can do with a psychology degree kind of. So many of us teach that kind of class.
Right.
And so their semester-long project was they had the challenge to have to dive into some of the most prominent and prevailing myths in psychology. And then they presented that actually as an infographic. So it's pretty cool. They got to be as artistic as they wanted to be. They got to pick whatever myth. I gave them suggestions.
Right.
They wanted to pick one. So a couple of students had picked the "we only use 10% of our brain" myth. And one student had said, "Oh, I love that movie, Lucy." And so I had to keep my composure because, there's that meme of from some comic strip, and
Yeah.
and the guy is covering somebody's mouth and he goes, "Shh, let people just enjoy things." And I feel like I have that issue of not letting people enjoy things. But on that presentation day, I got into this long discussion with some of these students about that movie and just how, the pervasive this myth is, and some of the problems and the science behind it, and so that's one of the main reasons why I picked this. And then another time that this comes up in class is on the first day of biopsych. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put some popular myths up, and let's just nip this in the bud on day one.
Yeah,
you all should not be. You should not be believing these. And so that's yeah. So that's one of the ones that comes up there. And so pretty much any student who knows me knows I'm the huge myth buster. I'm no fun Reagan who takes your favorite movies and is like, nope, but looks pretty, or that's funny, or that's entertaining, but no, not real.
Turn your brain off for this.
I know. That's
turn your brain off for this film if you're gonna watch it, because no fun Reagan apparently is gonna come in, smash your dreams. But you mentioning the meme about let people enjoy it reminds me of the other comic where somebody's like, oh, I'm gonna sign off right now, or the sick figure's like, I'm gonna sign off right now, and then they're like, wait, nope, somebody's wrong on the internet.
Someone's wrong on the internet.
And so instead of internet, replace psychology. So nope, somebody's wrong in psychology. Hold on. Hold my beer.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, I essentially, we are going to rip apart the science that's in this movie. Mainly because I think it's very wrong, even though on the special features on the DVD, you can find them, or Luc Besson specifically talking about how he went and talked to scientists, and they have an interview with a couple of faculty members. I'm just gonna call them faculty members because I don't know what they're doing. I think they had some titles, but talks to some faculty from American universities, and kind of given him, I think maybe they gave him some good information and then he went and messed it all up. I don't know. But as far as like it being a good movie, which is a completely different topic for another podcast to do, but honestly, it's not a very good movie. In my opinion, it's not winning any awards. That's for sure.
I think it's very visually appealing though. I think it's pretty.
It looks pretty, sure.
Yeah, it looked pretty. It had cool, like, fast forward-y type visual effects. So I will give it credit there.
Fair. It's fair. But as far as story goes, there's very little plot. And it's very little substance. And so all that's left is the science that they talk about, and it's not good. It's not good science. It's the 10%. It's the 10% myth on the drug that is presented in the film. Does that make sense? Like, the drug makes you super, like, a freaking aware and stuff like that, and they just turn the myth to 11.
Yeah, I mean it goes beyond normal human abilities.
Right.
Just when we're getting into the supernatural of it and like becoming other like non-corporeal forms, that's where I'm like, where does this come from? I
You just
could
got to unlock your
see-
brain power.
I could see better vision, right? That I could see
Mm-hmm.
something like that happening. I could see better hearing.
Yeah.
But like moving things with your mind,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Get it.
So let's give the listeners some background on the 10% myth.
Yes.
So the 10% myth is as one of those myths that won't die. You said you found a poll before we started recording. What were the details of that poll again?
Yeah, so a few years ago, about 2,000 Americans were polled asking whether they believed that we only use 10% of our brain in any given day.
Mm-hmm.
And 65% of those polls agreed.
Yeah, that's a bit troubling. And like I said, it's the myth that won't die. It's a little more, at least the stories that I've been told. I've heard some variations on its origin, but the origin that I've read into and looked into about where it got its start was with one of the early American psychologists, William James. So this was around the turn of the 20th century. So if we're talking about myth and you bringing up the fact that you brought up a couple of years ago, 65%, this myth is like more than 100 years old. I'm sure there are older myths, but let's let psychology have its
right
place in the sun. In one of his writings, he opined that humans were apparently only using about 10% of their cognitive potential. And he described cognitive potential as intellectual ability more than physical aspects of the brain. I mean, it's a vague phrase. He was more of a philosopher than a psychologist, in my opinion. But he was suggesting something that was kind of technically, at least in my opinion, innumerable. Like he was like, yeah, 10%. That sounds like a good place. It's just low.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And brain power or brain usage or the phrase they use. I'll come back to the phrase they use. I'm on my rant horse now.
I know I'm like all amped up.
We're getting down into this, and so the phrase they use in the movie is brain capacity. That seems like there's some finite value to it, and so there's a disconnect there, right? But William James was just referring to how he saw people were just not intellectual. They weren't intellectually curious. They were intellectually lazy, or even physically lazy. They just he just saw that people were content with going about their days as almost automatons. And, I would imagine through the years, people thought similar things, even before him and after him. And it's probably a smug and elitist thing to say that, most people are anti-intellectual or apathetic for cognitively stimulating endeavors. But, it's William James.
Yeah, he was Mr. Cool Cat. He was so Mr. Cool Cat, spoke a bunch of languages, got a medical degree that he didn't really use.
Right.
Yeah. So, he's going around saying that, look at you people, you're not even trying to think critically.
Your brains are amazing.
Why aren't we all scientists?
And then the myth then began through an historical game of telephone. So it was misrepresented, and then it was misrepresented again, and it was misrepresented again, and again, and again, and again, and you end up with a shortening to 10% of the brain. Boom, done. 3 words, technically, when you write it out. 4 words, I guess. And there you go. It's simple. Brain is an organ. People know that. 10% number. People know that. Boom, done. And the rest becomes a horrible history of psychology.
Yeah, I mean, I've even heard it be accredited to like the self-help and self-esteem movement. Just imagine
yeah.
your potential. If you use more than 10% of your brain, you're doing yourself a disservice by just using 10% of your brain. And so, I mean, I don't get it, but people kind of take it as gospel.
They do, don't they? The okay. So, sparking on that piece,
Yeah.
cognitive capacity. The movie
Right.
kind of starts out with two parallel things going on. One, Lucy and her boyfriend, which famous character is he?
Euron Greyjoy.
Yeah.
We get some Game of Thrones up in here.
Randomly in Taipei. And then the other parallel track that eventually they converge is Morgan Freeman as the character exposition, explaining to a large group of people his theories. And I'm doing air quotes here. Christina can see them. Air quotes, his theory.
They're important. Air quotes.
Although I will give the screenwriter credit, whether that was Luc Besson or somebody else. They do have Morgan Freeman pretty much describe theory correctly when he is first chatting with Lucy. He was like, it's just untested things and assumptions. And I'm like, okay, well, at least you got part of it right.
For primitive beings like us, life seems to have only one single purpose: gaining time. And it is going through time seems to be also the only real purpose of each of the cells in our bodies. To achieve that aim, the mass of the cells that make up earthworms and human beings has only two solutions: be immortal or to reproduce. If its habitat is not sufficiently favorable or nurturing, the cell will choose immortality. In other words, self-sufficiency and self-management. On the other hand, if the habitat is favorable, they will choose to reproduce. That way, when they die, they hand down essential information and knowledge to the next cell, which hands it down to the next cell, and so on. Thus, knowledge and learning are handed down through time.
All right, that's some science that's pretty legit. I can get behind that.
That's true. I will give him that. But he goes on to start talking about what is termed in the movie cognitive capacity, and that's
right.
where the 10% brain myth is gets its legs in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Cognitive capacity. It's an annoying phrase. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think like, how much brain can you stuff in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's so vague. And we know that you can't use 100% of your brain. If you did, you'd be seizing.
Yeah.
And she does actually seize at the beginning when the drug's activated. But yeah, I don't. It's such a vague term, but it sounds real jargony and sciencey, and so I think that's why they use it. Of just like, look at that, we're barely tapping into our brain's potential.
Yeah, and I can suspend my disbelief with Besson using brain capacity or cognitive capacity as the phrase, and we only use 10% because it's so vague. Like, we can suspend disbelief, but then he goes and screws it up by saying that dolphins use 20%.
Okay, right.
And so it's like, where'd you go and get that one? Out your
Yeah.
bum? Um,
Right.
right. And then his reason for, or his evidence for dolphins having double the brain capacity is that they have echolocation, which has
Right.
nothing to do with
Oh, think
the
how smart we'd be if we used echolocation as humans?
right.
Why would we need to? Our eyeballs are just fine.
I mean, our eyeballs could use a little work, but
Well, at times, yeah.
yeah. But I mean, we have a fairly decent echolocation system
Well, yeah.
for
Okay.
for sounds traveling in air.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, you know why he picked dolphin, right?
Yeah, because dolphins are so cute and they're like, oh,
Yeah,
we're super
everybody.
smart. And it's like, well, you're not that smart if you keep
Yeah.
living in the water.
Why haven't you grown legs yet, huh?
Yeah.
Or figured out how to walk, huh?
Yeah, exactly. God.
Sorry for the dolphin lovers out there.
Yeah,
I like dolphins
we love
just
dolphins.
fine.
Dolphins
No,
are
we
great.
love. They're so cute. But yeah, so we know why he picked the dolphin, and then I guess he was trying to figure out, like, well, what's the big difference between a dolphin and a human? Oh, that echolocation, flipper. So that, yeah, that's some light science there.
Right. And literally doesn't answer any questions about the two numbers, 10 and 20%, which then carries the rest of the plot of the film, which is like what happens when you go to 20, what happens when you go to 30, 40, etc. What aspects of the movie made you cringe other than those two?
Well, first of all, at the very, very beginning, when she's talking to good old Neuron,
Yeah, you're on.
he's just like, hey, you're gonna deliver this drug, boom, and next thing she knows, she's getting sliced open, gets a bag of drugs placed in her. I mean, oh my god, this is the girl studying abroad's nightmare.
Right.
And so first of all, she's in this experiment unbeknownst to her, right? Total lack of informed consent. So I gotta slide that in there of the ethics of this whole experimentation. And she was the only woman, I noticed, in that group of people being experimented on. So typical, not testing on more women. not that they should be. But I did notice that there was low female representation in that sample of hers.
Yeah, those Taiwanese gangsters did not get their IRB approval.
Absolutely not. and when good old Morgan Freeman, so when
the character of
jumps,
exposition, yep.
Yes. So when he's saying this, one neuron means you're alive, two neurons means you're moving.
Yeah.
One neuron means you're alive. Two neurons means you're moving.
I heard that again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah. I can think of plenty of creatures that go against what he just said, like, little amoebas that floating around with their flagella and stuff. And
yeah.
And so I don't know where that those running around, with those numbers. It's a lot of number throwing.
Yeah,
I think that's what's bothering me.
Right. I wonder who said that. If an academic said that, I want to know what where they got their degree from, because there are trillions of bacteria.
Sure.
That aren't brain cells.
Nope. And what are they doing? Just sitting there? No, they move around.
No.
And I don't think we even count, like, so embryos, when they move to like the fetal stage, do we say the one neuron alive, two neurons means you're moving? I don't so. I don't.
No, I think by the time I think by the time zygotes and embryos are moving, they have quite a few more than two.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So that's just throwing around the numbers. There was another, getting back to the cerebral capacity. So he says most species use about 3 to 5% of their cerebral capacity. Where did that come from? I mean, just
because they're all dumber.
Yeah, right. Obviously, they're not dolphins and they're not humans. And
yeah,
it's just, from an evolutionary perspective, that just doesn't make sense. Like, why would that happen to be so inefficient?
And why is it such a small range?
Right, I know. So
it's only 3%. And the maximum is even 5%. I've noticed some doubling occurring here.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like the numbers 3 to 5% then doubles to humans, which is 10.
10,
then doubles to dolphins, which is 20. God.
I think
if there was an animal that could use 40%.
Maybe that's elephants, because if they're, they never forget and their memories. Why weren't they tapped into?
Perfect segue, Christina, on the never forgetting. So as Lucy is getting high on
the cringe.
some drugs.
Cringe.
I'm going to go ahead and play that clip for everyone where she calls her mom. And she starts telling her mom things. So have a listen.
The pain in my mouth. When I had braces, I can remember the feeling of your hand on my forehead when I ran a fever. I remember stroking the cat. It was so soft.
The cat? What cat, honey?
A Siamese with blue eyes and a broken tail.
Sweetie, you can't possibly remember that. You were barely a year old.
I remember the taste of your milk in my mouth. The room. The liquid.
Sweetie, what are you talking about?
I just want to tell you that I love you, Mom and Dad.
Sweetie.
And I want to thank you for the 1,000 kisses that I can still feel on my face.
As you heard from that clip, she remembers the way her mother's breast milk tasted.
And I study moms, I love moms, love my mom. But sometimes there's a reason for childhood amnesia. As sweet and bonding as that experience is, I'm sorry. Super cringe fest. That's a 5-star cringe rating for me over here. I think I actually physically cringed when she said, because I was like, okay, every feeling, every memory is kind of sweet. And then she got to that part and I was like, oh, okay. I guess the whole inhibitory part of your prefrontal cortex, that part's not so active, is it?
You're oversharing here.
Yep. Yeah.
And everything that we know regarding brain development suggests that there's a significant prune around the age of 5, right? And so you get rid of all this stuff, literally.
Right. So where would they have come?
Get rid of all those neurons.
Where would they have come from? It would make more sense if she was given this drug as a baby.
Yeah.
Right? And then she's getting all these memories remain, so she doesn't have the pruning.
Right.
Oh, where would the memories come back from?
Yeah, because memories are just connections between various neurons in the same sequence. So the sequences aren't there. So what the hell?
Right. I No, exactly. It's not like a blocking. It's not a, oh, I know I remembered this at some point later in my life, but no, it's I don't know how it would physically get those pruned off synaptic connections back. How? There's a reason why we don't remember every single thing. I mean, goodness, it takes so much energy, right, for our brains to just function typically.
Just a default mode network.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're remembering every single memory, just, I think we'd have to eat a lot. We'd have to get a lot more glucose or something.
And all of that extra caloric and glucose intake would immediately go to your brain. And I just don't think that's feasible with the way that our metabolism is set up.
No. And what's the point? Like, what is the benefit?
Right.
Of remembering
if we could bring evolution in that, what's the benefit? Like,
we don't need to know what we ate for dinner 3 months ago. Like, there's a reason why we forget these things.
Exactly.
So creepy breast milk taste is one thing that I think it's okay to forget.
Remembering breast milk aside, it is a really interesting scene because Besson pulls in on her face and Scarlett Johansson does a really good job of still crying. Like, not sobbing, but tears going down her face.
Single tear.
Yeah. I call it still crying. I'm amazed that when people can do that and they just like blink and the tear falls down their face. As we go chronologically through this film, actually, let's back up a second. You notice some things that I didn't notice. And I think it's because you spend a little bit more time with Biopsych on this one. When she first has the drug coursing through her system,
yes.
What happens?
Oh yes, I was taking notes like mad. Okay, so she gets kicked in the tummy super hard by her captor, okay, and then that activates the drug.
Yeah, rips open the drug mule bag that it was in.
Right. Yeah, so all the blue little crystals are activated now. So first, she starts seizing. That's probably the most accurate part of the whole movie of like, ooh, you're getting a whole bunch of drugs in you, and probably some neurons are firing that should not be firing. So yes, most likely would be. Okay. And then, so she's getting super aggro, right? She's first like, she tried to kind of seduce him, and then boom, she is like kicking and doing some super like martial art type kicks, and so I'm thinking like, oh, I guess it first activated her hypothalamus to be like way amped up, and she's getting some off the charts vasopression secretion, right? She's like super aggressive. Since she gets this gun and she's shooting people indiscriminately, she's ravenous with hunger, like she's just eating whatever. And so I'm like, all right, we've definitely got some hypothalamic activation here. That's probably at its capacity, if that's possible. And like I was saying earlier, I guess the prefrontal cortex just wasn't activated yet at this point. The whole inhibition of behavior, those neurons that are supposed to be turning off other systems, those aren't activated. So she's out in the world. She's observing every single stimuli. Right? Again, the reason why we don't take note of every single stimulus around us.
Right.
So I'm thinking, is this really enhanced brain capacity, or is she experiencing ADHD? Is she just like, ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that. I'm taking this in, and my attention is just everywhere. That's what I was thinking. It seems like I'm getting more of an ADHD vibe here.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, maybe if people with ADHD know something we don't.
Yeah, maybe they are taking in some more things. Maybe they're using more of their brain, that cerebral capacity.
Yeah, maybe it's like 10.3%.
Margin of error,
right?
Increase. Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I want to riff on is the gobbledygook explanation of time, and so I'm going to throw that clip in here, and then we'll come back to it.
How did you manage to access all this information?
Electrical impulses. Every cell knows and talks to every other cell. They exchange 1,000 bits of information between them per second. Cells group together, forming a giant web of communication, which in turn forms matter. Cells get together, take on one form, deform, reform. Makes no difference, it's all the same. Humans consider themselves unique, so they've rooted their whole theory of existence on their uniqueness. One is their unit of measure, but it's not. All social systems we put into place are a mere sketch. 1 + 1 = 2. That's all we've learned. But 1 + 1 has never equaled 2. There are, in fact, no numbers and no letters. We've codified our existence to bring it down to human size, to make it comprehensible. We've created a scale so that we can forget its unfathomable scale.
But if humans are not the unit of measure, and the world isn't governed by mathematical laws, what governs all that?
Film a car speeding down a road. Speed up the image infinitely, and the car disappears. So what proof do we have of its existence? Time gives legitimacy to its existence. Time is the only true unit of measure. It gives proof to the existence of matter. Without time, we don't exist.
So they talk about time in such a weird way, where you speed up a car infinitely and it disappears. It disappears.
Oh.
And so I'm assuming that's what happens to Lucy in the end. She literally becomes space-time, which is, I think, a cop-out for 100. And as you mentioned at the top of the discussion with when we get into supernatural stuff and controlling people, psi abilities, we'll say, and it's just like, why would our brain be able to do that?
Right. Yeah, that was just such a leap.
It was.
Why would we ever leave our body? I don't.
Considering that the whole point, the whole conceit of the work of Dr. Exposition is that he's trying to say that humans want to be immortal, and that's great.
Right.
Sure. Just like all genes want to be immortal.
Yeah.
But why does that mean you have to become space-time?
Yeah, and the weird goo. First,
yeah, the black
before
goo.
that, and the black goo. Like and that made a little bit of sense because it says, she was looking for energy. And sure, if you're using all that capacity, like we said, you're gonna need to be looking for energy. But yeah, turning into the omnipresent Lucy, that was lost on me. But I am no philosopher. I'm not a stoner either, so maybe that's why I just can't wrap my head around it. Maybe I need to be on that CPH4 drug to even picture this happening. But yeah, that's the big leap where I'm like, telekinesis, okay, that's been thought about before. Sure. It's still above the normal realm of human capacity. So, but I'll give you telekinesis. But when we jump to the becoming space-time, why? Why did it go to that big leap?
I don't know. I think maybe Luc Besson was on something. And what's crazy is that Fifth Element's actually really good, and some of his other films are really good. And I think he missed the mark on this one. I think he tried to do too much by making science cool. But as we know from other films, science can be cool all by itself. So You know, we don't. I think that the science tries to be a little bit too grounded, and it ultimately just becomes way too fiction.
Yeah, especially like towards the end, we're getting like 80, 90, 99%, 100% disappeared. Like,
Yeah.
all of that was just kind of just rushed through.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably because I bet he had this ending in mind before he had all the middle parts. And so he's like, I just want to get to this, like, she's everywhere.
Yeah.
I am everywhere. He had that, I think, in his head the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But bogus.
Hey, I have one last question. So
Yeah.
you mentioned the name of the name of the drug was a derivative of CPH4.
Mhm.
Is that real?
I looked it up.
Mhm.
So Luc Besson claims that it's real, but
Okay.
he won't say what the name of it is. He was in an interview and he claims, yes, it's a real thing, saying it's this like human growth factor that's present, during gestation. But he's like, I don't want to say the name of it, and I bet he's worried that now some mad scientist is going to try to recreate the movie by creating a CPH. So CPH4 itself does not exist, but human growth factors like it do certainly exist to promote fetal growth.
Yeah, and based on your knowledge studying moms and new moms and that sort of thing, can the babies control people with their minds?
Well, yeah, they cry and parents come running.
Damn it!
I think
You're
babies.
right.
I think babies certainly have
Luc
mind
Besson,
control.
you figured out life.
All they gotta do is cry and they get what they want. So I'd say they are pretty powerful. So it's that dang pruning. They lose it when they. That's what it is.
It's the opposite.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I think we just solved this movie. Everyone should love this movie for the science it's promoting and use it for all of psychology. 10% myth, totally true. You heard it here first.
Right.
Cinema Psych podcast promoting psychology since 2019.
Pre-pruning, we have that 100% capacity. It's that.
Oh my gosh, we are so dumb. We
Oops.
give our title to dolphins.
I bet babies have echolocation. They're supposed to be good swimmers, so we don't even know what they're saying underwater.
Oh my god, they probably are talking with dolphins. Okay. New study: infants in water with dolphins.
And baby dolphins.
Yes, baby dolphins. And then we have them communicate with each other, and we develop a new language and stuff like that. It'd be great.
I worry they're going to take over.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Simpsons did an episode about dolphins taking over, so it's just par for the course about the Simpsons predicting the future. So maybe it's inevitable.
Oh man, I'm a huge Simpsons fan too. So I probably stole it from them, and I didn't remember.
Oh gosh, it's a 10%, striking again.
Dang it. Dang, cerebral capacity so low.
Alrighty. Thanks to Christina Reagan for joining me to discuss Lucy. While saying goodbye, Christina, is there anything that you would like to plug? Where can folks find more about your work?
Yes. So I got to plug my Facebook page. So anybody who teaches courses that include neuroscience or biological psychology, they should request to join my teaching resources for biological psychology and neuroscience Facebook page. So
I will link it. I will link it online.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So it's really meant for instructors. Because we share files, we share assignments, so it's really meant for instructors of these kinds of classes. It's a really great group, and in fact, I think that's how we became internet friends.
Maybe.
But
I think partly STP, the STP
Yeah.
group, and
Yeah.
your group, yeah.
Yeah, and then we met IRL.
And then we met IRL, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you ditched me, and it's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
This
So,
year, though, this year at MPA, it'll be there for a lot
Woo!
longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for MPA. So definitely add that page. There's tons of great materials on there. People are super helpful. Just everybody is just so willing to share.
We
because,
are.
like, why reinvent the wheel? And honestly, I think people are pretty flattered when someone says like, "Hey, I tried out your thing in class and like it worked really well," or like the students really liked it, or the ultimate thing would be they're understanding it better. So, yeah,
Right.
please.
And I can attest to that. I got a good idea the other day, and I used it yesterday, and for better or for worse, I did it, and then I able to share how it went,
Right.
with the folks that offered suggestions, and it was a good time. Good time.
Yeah, I know. It's just like fun, quick little things. It doesn't have to be something expensive. It doesn't have to be something time consuming. It's just usually little active learning activities to help these really challenging topics be a little bit more digestible.
Very cool. Alrighty, listener out there, please keep liking, please keep sharing, please keep subscribing to the podcast. You are the bread and butter of this show. We like doing it anyways, but your support is always appreciated. And if you have the ability, please take a look at the Patreon or PayPal links on the website and contribute to keeping the lights on the podcast. And until the next episode, thanks for listening.